to Urban X-Files. My name is Keith, and today's video we are going to discuss the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. Is this something that is just in people's minds, or is this an actual mysterious thing? The Bermuda Triangle, also known as the Devil's Triangle, is an area of ocean found off the southern eastern tip of the United States. It's a region of water that's undeniably connected with mysterious vessel disappearances. The popular perception is that countless boats and planes have been inexplicably lost within this triangle. The triangle extends from Bermuda to Miami and then to Puerto Rico, and is said to contain a supernatural mystery. Some high-profile disappearances have also occurred here, and the notion of its existence has been turned into a modern-day myth, or possibly some conspiracy theory. Even the term Bermuda Triangle itself was coined in a fictional publication. But does this part of the sea really house some unknown power that pulls sea and airmen alike to their doom? Or is this mystery based on the conspiracy theorists' dream of the Bermuda Triangle? Now, one of the most popular mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle is the mysterious case of Flight 19. This happened in 1945 at the beginning of December. There was a squadron of 5 US Navy Avenger torpedo bombers that set off from their base in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. The reason of the flight was to conduct a practice mission over the island of Bimini, and the flight contained 14 men, all of them students apart from the commander, Lieutenant Charles Taylor. And about an hour and a half after the mission began, radio operators had received a signal from Taylor saying that their compasses were not working, and he believed he was somewhere over the Florida Keys. He was advised by a control unit to fly north, which should bring him back to the mainland. But in fact, he was over the Bahamas, and his attempts to head north and northeast merely took him further away from the solid ground. A terrible storm that day had hampered communications, and it seems that Lieutenant Taylor rejected a suggestion to pass control of the squadron to one of the other pilots. Radio contact was entirely lost, and then a search craft had been dispatched to try and find the flight to guide them back home. Of the 3 planes used to rescue Flight 19, one had lost communication itself because of an iced-over aerial. One was just unsuccessful, whilst the other seemed to explode shortly after takeoff. So that's a loss of a few planes. Flight 19 itself had never been found, and it is assumed that they had to ditch into the raging stormy sea when their fuel had expired. And the planes was really heavy planes, given that they were carrying torpedoes, and they began to rapidly sink beneath the waves, heading straight to the ocean floor. The US Navy had recorded the disaster and said this had been caused by Lieutenant Taylor's confusion, but an appeal by his family had this overturned, as they did not want it associated with the last remnants of his legacy to be tarnished by not having 100% truth. Now, in Lieutenant Taylor he had over 2,500 hours flying this specific type of aircraft, and the other trainee pilots had each had a total of 60 flight hours flying in the Avenger. and Taylor had completed a combat tour in the Pacific Theater as a torpedo bomber pilot on the aircraft carrier USS Hancock, and had recently arrived from NAS Miami, where he'd also been a VTB. A VTB is a torpedo bombing plane instructor. The student pilot had recently completed other training missions in the area where the flight was to take place. There was US Marine Captains Edward Joseph Powers and George William Stivers, who US Marine Second Lieutenant Forrest James Gerber, and amongst others, who were said to look over this. And the mystery had been unsolved for a very long time, with many different theories to what had actually gone down. Sometime in 1986, the wreckage of an Avenger plane was found off the Florida coast during the search for the wreckage of the Space Shuttle Challenger. An aviation archaeologist, John Mayer, raised this wreck from the ocean floor in 1990. He mistakenly believed it was one of the missing planes from Flight 19. And in 1991, a treasure hunting expedition led by Graham Hawkes announced that the wreckage of 5 Avengers had also been discovered off the coast of Florida. But the tail numbers revealed they were not part of Flight 19. There were plenty of documentaries showing where Hawkes was returning with a new submersible 12 years later to identify one of the planes by its bureau number as the flight lost at sea in October of 1943. That's 2 years before Flight 19. And thankfully, this flight, all of its crew survived. There were even news reports in 2015 that claimed a wreckage of a warplane with 2 bodies inside had been retrieved by the Navy in the mid-60s near Sebastian, Florida. The Navy initially said that they thought this was from Flight 19, but later recanted its statement because the Freedom of Information Act that requests all its details that come out in 2013, and the names are still not known who these pilots was, because they don't have enough information to identify the bodies. So they were unable to confirm what this plane was, because obviously I think damage that had been done to the plane was unable to give its number or anything like that. And it seemed that the pilots that were in the wreckage did not have any identification remained, possibly through it had disintegrated, been taken by sea fish, things, whatever. Now, as mysterious as Flight 19 is, it is still not the only high-profile loss in this area. And the USS Cyclops and a Marine Sulphur Queen have also disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle without a trace. The legend of Flight 19 had been cemented by its inclusion in Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is actually pretty good. Indeed, some theories state that a visiting UFO craft entered an underwater base in the Bermuda area, and they have been the cause of these disappearances, which is one of the outlandish theories brought to attention. And there are other fanciful ideas, such as technologies from Atlantis, or even as far as evil marine creatures coming up and snapping these ships in half and taking them down. But imagine how big that mysterious sea monster would have to be to bring down colossal ships such as USS Cyclops. Just doesn't really make sense. And other people have suggested that the Bermuda Triangle is some sort of gateway to another dimension. And there are other things like oceanographic features such as huge clouds of methane gas escaping from the seabed has also been used to describe the possible outcome of what causes these planes to vanish and these ships too. So that when these gases come to the surface, it makes the ships lose all their buoyancy, which in turn brings them beneath the waves. And it's also said that these gases are able to go as high as thousands of feet in the air that prevent planes from flying through it and just drop to plummet into the sea. So there are plenty of potential explanations for these strange disappearances. Unlike anywhere else in the world, apart from the Dragon's Triangle, which is near Japan, compasses point to true north rather than the magnetic north. This may be a contributing factor to the Bermuda Triangle's legend, but the US Coast Guard officially believes the losses are caused by a mixture of environmental and man-made mistakes. This region is used by a large amount of ocean and air traffic, much of which is navigated by inexperienced pleasure seekers. A strong Gulf Stream and unpredictable weather conditions not only cause vessels to run into trouble, but also remove many traces of them once they have been wrecked. It is interesting to also report that the Coast Guard does not view this area as having a particularly high account of incidents. There is another researcher who has examined many other historic losses within this triangle, and he come to the conclusion that rumours and elaboration had clouded the real, understandable causes behind these events, and that the international insurers, Lloyd's of London, have records that demonstrate that this region near the Bermuda Triangle is no more treacherous than any other waterway. So is the Bermuda Triangle just something of fiction? So as there's plenty of potential causes which go from natural explanations, which is compass problems and various other instrument failures, then there's the Gulf Stream, which is a major surface current that could be used to explain some of the losses. Then obviously human error and mistakes made by human people. Then we've got violent weather where storms have brought down planes and ships. Then we have the methane theory, which causes the methane gas to rise to bring down whatever is above it. So they are possible theories. And then we've got the paranormal side too, so aliens and other various things, as well as crazy large sea monsters, which I do disbelieve the sea monster theory, as if a sea monster was large enough to bring down a Uss Cyclops plane carrier, it must be gigantic. There are quite a few ships that have been involved within the Bermuda Triangle and that have disappeared. One of them is HMS Atlanta, which is a sail training ship, and that disappeared with its entire crew after setting sail from the naval dockyard in Bermuda to set sail for Falmouth in England, and that was in the 1800s. Then the incident that involved the USS Cyclops, so that was resulting in the single largest loss of life in the history of the US Navy that was not related to any combat or war. So the ship, the USS Cyclops, which is mentioned in the story, as well as over 300 crew, had vanished without an explanation in 1918. Then there is also another ship that was built in 1919, which was a 5-masted schooner that had, it was found that it had vanished without any of its crew. As well as Flight 19, you've got the Star Tiger and the Star Ariel, which they disappeared in the 1940s, 1948 and 1949. And then you have a passenger plane, which was the Douglas DC-3, and that disappeared in 1948. So there are a lot of disappearances associated within this area. So if there are any of you guys that have any theories which can throw some light on the infamous Bermuda Triangle, please let me know. Or if you believe in the Bermuda Triangle, would you ever be happy to sail in a ship across the Bermuda Triangle to see if you can find any information? Or would you rather fly across the Bermuda Triangle? I don't know whether I would like to chance it or not, but it would be interesting to see. Anyway, that's enough today for the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. I hope you enjoyed this story. Take care and see you in the next video. Peace.